The House is adjourned. Sine Die.
We are adjourned. Sine Die.
However you want to call it. On the 89th day, they rested. The first session of the 68th legislature ended their 12th week of business without a plan to come back anytime soon. At least they got it done under 90 days, about a month shy of the all-time record, not counting the 2 COVID years. So this year is the most prolific we've had in the last 5 when it comes to, well, bills and legislation. There were 789 pieces of legislation, if you include all the resolutions, the memorials, and the proclamations. As for just bills, there were 707 of those printed for consideration, with the vast majority coming from the House side, just 220 from the Senate. By end of day, more than 300 bills will have been sent to the governor this session, who has signed all but one so far, and that would be the most since the 2020 session. So tying up those loose ends today in the House and the Senate, working out the kinks of the revised medical freedom bill and approving the amendments on that and the DEI bill. In between dotting the I's and crossing the T's, the majority and minority parties took some time for a post-session press conference. The Grand Old Party going first with House Speaker Mike Moyle listing off all the things they accomplished this session, stuff they laid out on day 1 of the session. In order, that'd be tax relief, school choice, Medicaid reform, immigration enforcement, election integrity. Speaker Moyle made mention of keeping government growth down when it comes to budgets and the contentious budget process, while admitting the school funding formula is going to need some work over the summer. But school funding in general, well, that was addressed, Moyle said, with House Bill 304.
We are doing a lot, though, with the tax relief in regards to the facilities. You saw another $50 million stumped into the facilities this year. We're also doing a good job. We put out the $50 million for rural grants for those rural schools. That's a good thing. So we made a lot of movement on the other side on facilities, too.
Speaker Moyle mentioned the goal for the majority of school facility funding is to move it off property taxes and then back to the state where it should be. Well, then it was the Democrats' turn to take the podium, who pointed out that property tax bill, that relief he was just talking about, doesn't directly address the failing school facilities across Idaho. They also pointed out the fact none of those things the Republicans touted at the beginning of the session and at the end were top of the list of what Idahoans really wanted the legislature to address, according to the Boise State Public Policy Survey. Those would be education, jobs in the economy, and health care. And there was a lot of denying budgets to make room for tax cuts.
So while Democrats fought for child care, housing, food security, for vulnerable populations and a stable fiscal plan, the majority party was busy interfering with local business, local government, and personal choices. They've left our schools underfunded, our communities vulnerable, and they ignore you, their constituents, when you engage in democracy.
GOP saying the good thing, one of the good things, keeping a budget increase under 2%, while the Democrats and Senator Wintrow, you just heard from, pointed to the $87 million in cuts alone from education. We're going to dig more into the biggest bills of the session, a little bit of that next week. But for today, we're just going to remind you some of the biggest ones that kind of went through this week and kind of wrapped up the whole legislative session with this legislative wrap.
Hopefully the last time we'll be greeting you in this committee on a Monday morning.
And Senator Jim Guthrie was right. Senate State Affairs took on House Bill 398 on the last Monday of the session. The bill increases lobbyist transparency by making spending reports year-round and addresses out-of-state group spending.
Because that's big money and big influence.
Don't worry, the proposal only covers paid lobbyists. Governor Little signed the bill into law this morning. A battle over medical freedom took place this week. Governor Brad Little vetoed the original Senate Bill 1023, but instead of overriding the veto, 2 more medical freedom bills popped up, House Bill 472 and Senate Bill 1210. Then on Thursday, the Senate actually did try to override the veto.
Less than 2/3 having concurred, the veto is sustained.
Unsuccessful, lawmakers put all their eggs in the Senate's new Medical Freedom Act bill. Senate Bill 1210 just changes language about daycares and schools and added a comma.
They say third time's the charm.
Third time was the charm. Senate Bill 1210 passed the House 44-23 with amendments, and the Senate approved those, so the bill is going to the governor's desk. And it's rumored he'll actually sign this one. The governor signed a lot of bills into law this week, including Senate Bill 1141. The new law bans camping and sleeping in public spaces in cities over 100,000 residents, like Boise, Meridian, and Nampa. The bill defines public camping as sitting or lying down for a prolonged amount of time or temporarily living in something like a tent or RV. Cities could face a fine up to $10,000 per violation if they don't enforce the law. This goes into effect on July 1st. Ivermectin might soon be available in Idaho without a prescription. Senate Bill 1211 went from committee to the governor's desk just this week. The bill allows the controversial drug to be sold without a consultation by a doctor and would go into effect immediately. The medicine, which is meant to treat parasites in humans and some animals, gained recognition during the pandemic, as some believed it could be used to prevent and treat the coronavirus. Although it was never approved by the FDA for that. We're still waiting to see if the governor will sign the bill into law. The Senate's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion bill is also waiting for the governor's signature. The bill prohibits higher education institutions from maintaining DEI offices, employees, or required courses. The House passed Senate Bill 1198 this morning with amendments, including increasing the penalty for violating the law from 2% to 10% of the institution's operating expenses. We'll just have to wait and see what the governor decides. And that's a legislative wrap.